Dan, I'm going to ask you if you could put on your thinking cap.
Oh, it's never off. It's always on.
Yeah, I want you to put on your thinking cap.
All right.
Do you remember a few episodes ago, we were talking about firewood and New York City and pizza ovens and legislation. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yep.
Yeah, we were talking about, like, there was some things in the news about the pizza ovens in New York City and the firewood and all. And you and me we started talking about and just thinking out loud, wow, what would it be like to deliver firewood in New York City, one of the biggest cities in the world? Remember that?
Yes. And I was actually thinking, is there anyone who delivers firewood in a city like that?
Yeah.
Is it
And
even
are there
possible? Is it
and,
something that happens?
and are there fireplaces in New York City? Serious? In these
Right.
skyscrapers? And
Yeah.
and if someone were to deliver firewood in New York City, how the heck would you do it?
Right. That I am. It's all coming back to me now. Yeah. A lot
What
of
do you do?
questions.
Like, you got a dump truck and you got to, like, carry wood upstairs, like 70 flights of stairs? I don't know. So the reason I'm bringing this up, Dan, if you haven't noticed, there is a stranger sitting across the table from us,
I have.
and he's staring at us right now, and he's wondering where in the heck, how did I wind up in this place?
Yes, I have noticed that.
Yeah, so I am excited for everyone in out there in podcast land listening to the Woodhounds, the world's largest firewood podcast. I want to introduce you to someone special. His name is Richard Heby, and he is the owner and operator of Woodbourne Boys. They are a firewood delivery service from Brooklyn, New York. Richard, how are you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Joe? Uh, Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Doing good. Just, it's high season right now for us, as I imagine it is for you guys. Got a couple trucks out this morning, and happy to be on with you right now.
That's awesome.
Welcome, Richard. So you're gonna answer all these questions about, is it possible, and do you actually deliver firewood in a big city like Brooklyn?
Yeah, we have 1,001 questions for you, Richard. And so right at the very beginning, we don't know each other. I was bored one day during one of these big rainstorms that we had, and I started Googling firewood and different cities. And so I'm in New York City Googling, and I kept finding this one website, and it was the Woodbourne Boys. And it's an excellent website, and he has excellent reviews from his customers. He's well established. And I just rolled the dice. I cold called him, and he answers his phone. And I told him who I was, and he was like, never heard of you. And I says, well, have you heard of Dan from Back 40? He goes, nope, never heard of him either. So it sounds like he is too busy delivering firewood to spend any time on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, this is my life. I kind of stumbled into it, to be perfectly honest. I had a lot of the same questions that you do about where do you get firewood, how do you move it, and where does it come from before I got here. And started this company just about a year ago, like a year and a couple months, 13 months. So it's pretty new, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Wow.
But
You
yeah,
would have never known from your online reviews, though. You've got a bunch and
yeah,
a lot of positive feedback.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I come from a marketing background. I did digital marketing for like 12 years and did customer relationship management for a long period of that time. And so making sure customers are satisfied and come back is kind of what I led. That was the first foot forward when I started this company.
Yeah.
That kind of sounds like the complete opposite of most firewood delivery services that I know
Yeah,
of.
yeah, I know, but it is a repeat business, right? Like a lot of companies, good or bad, get the same clientele year in, year out, season in, season out. So um, for us, that was something I really wanted to make sure that we did. But the funny thing is, like, I kind of fell into this business. I bought one of those solo stoves, bought the biggest one,
Oh, yep.
put it in my backyard.
Yes.
Um, I don't know if it's 100% legal or not to have an open fire pit in the backyard, but that's besides the point. Um,
Your
and I
secret
was like,
is safe with us.
yeah, how do I get firewood? So I went to the hardware store, Do It Best Hardware on Fulton, and I went to get as many bundles as I could carry. Now, this is me walking, not driving, no cart, no hand truck, I'm not wheeling a wheelbarrow through the city. I think I got one or maybe two. And there were like 5 big pieces, $14.99 plus tax.
Ooh.
And it had been like maybe a month prior where I bought a cord of seasoned wood, and it was like 280 or something like that, maybe 265 a cord for 2 cords. And then I was like, did the math. I was like, this doesn't make sense. How does this make sense? So I took my car. I have a Toyota RAV4, not a huge car, not a tiny car, little SUV, upstate, and brought down as much wood as I could fit in there. Posted it on Craigslist, said free delivery, or we'll deliver, we'll bring it up the stairs, we'll do whatever the other guy's not going to do. Got a few hits, and that's
Here
how
you
it's.
are.
Yeah.
Wow.
That Richard, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking that can't be possible. But I mean, getting a start where you don't have a background in wood, you don't have a background in chainsaws, you just wanted to have a fire, and you left the city to find some cheap, and then on the way back you started realizing this is a business model.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I look at it as we're solving the problem of how do you get a rural product into an urban area? How do you get something big, bulky, messy into tight corners and up, you know, stairs that would never be approved by the building department these days that are 200 years old and back of creaky hallways? How do you do that? That's how I see it. And so the firewood part, it could really be anything else. It could be mulch, it could be flowers. I don't know. It could be anything else. But I'm glad it is the firewood part because for some reason fell in love with it. So
Yeah.
many idiosyncrasies, so many little things. It's just a cool business. And at the end of the day, I kind of feel like we are providing, like, we work with a lot of pizza restaurants, barbecue places, and homes. We're providing heat and food. Like, what more of a basic need could you provide for people?
I love it. Well said. When Dan, when I was on the phone with Richard, the first thing Richard said that really made me start making my rusty wheel grind in my head. He said that where we live, in our area of Ohio, our area of Wisconsin, mostly people that buy firewood are us normal people, people that are trying to save a buck to heat their house, to supplement their heating bill. But he said in New York City, it's the other way around. He said it is the affluent, not the affluent, the super affluent people in New York City who are his clientele. I found that very interesting. And I guess that's just because of the type of buildings, I guess, have fireplaces. Richard, help me out on this.
I think that I don't know 100% what the guidelines are these days, but I don't think you can put a new wood burning fireplace in a new built house. It has to have existed. And I think that law has been in place for a matter of decades. So for for someone to stumble upon one of these holy grails of a house with a fireplace, it would have also had to have been maintained and fixed over the years. And so you're going to find it in these like beautiful townhouses that maybe were once, you know, mansions for the super rich that could have been restored to this day. And you'll find maybe one or two in high rises and things like that, but they would have existed a long time ago, and they would have had to been maintained. And for normal apartments that were just put up with, you know, budget in mind, it's all done with like electrical heat and things like that. Because if you're building 30-story apartment, you can't be putting in, I mean, I guess you could put in that many chimneys and that much exhaust, but seems like from a cost standpoint, it doesn't make sense. So you find like the people who buy firewood here have these really beautiful houses, are super affluent, and whoever owned that building before them has maintained it, because a lot of them kind of, they get closed up, covered in cement, or become just decoration, and they're no longer used.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't use the fireplace because they either let it go or they just can't get firewood anymore. They don't want to spend the time trying to get the firewood. And are most of your customers buying the wood for heating, or is it more like just ambiance, recreational burning? And then do you have also like restaurants, pizza ovens, stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. In the winter time, we're definitely delivering to more customers that are buying firewood for their residential homes. Few and far between will use it for their primary source of heating. I think another New York City legality thing, I think you have to have a heating source that's like either electric or gas or something. For landlords, they actually have to provide heat in some way for New York City tenants. There are some folks that I deliver to where they're like, this is my main source of heating. And I had a lady call me yesterday. She was referred by the woman who lived in that apartment prior. And she was like, we're freezing. We just moved in. We're freezing. And she wasn't on our route, but I took my car again and made that delivery because I don't want someone to be cold. And that's the reason I'm doing it. But on the restaurant side, that's really year round, 52 weeks out of the year. Pizza restaurants, they'll get like a specific cut of wood, specific species of wood, and they're going through maybe half face cord to a face cord every week, running that pizza oven. And there's a similar set of restrictive rules for those guys. Like you can't open up, I can't open up, Joe and Rich's Pizza and just put a pizza oven in if none had existed. If it's wood burning,
not
you can do
grandfathered
gas. Yeah, so lots of different rules about that as well.
Yeah. How many pizza ovens, wood burning pizza ovens, are there in New York City? Is there a lot?
There are a lot relative to other cities. There are not a lot in an absolute way. There's maybe 100, something along those lines. And then you have, if you're talking about commercial clients.
100. I'm just laughing at this
Yeah.
because, everything's on a different scale in New York City. My gosh. We had an earlier episode where I had done some math, and there are more people in New York City than there are in 10 states in the United States.
Wow.
That's just how many people are there. And then you just throw out a casual number like, oh, there's only like 100 pizza ovens. Gee whiz, that's more restaurants than we have in the entire county where I live.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. Kind of the goalpost keeps moving in a way. Like when I first started, the goal was 10 restaurants. Now we're up to around 30. And so if I'm looking at it from that perspective, it's like if we have 30 and there's only 100, then doesn't feel like that much. Because also you see the number of pizza restaurants that are just serving up a New York slice are probably in the thousands, probably 10x, 20x the amount of wood burning pizza ovens.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into this because my mind is spinning as well, Joe. So where do you get the wood from? Like, what is your process for? You had mentioned when you started, you went to the store on foot and bought some bundles. Then you mentioned you drove your car upstate. So what is do you have a wood yard? I imagine it can't be very big if you do, or what's going on with all this?
Yeah. So in New York City, in New York State, and a lot of other states, you can't sell wood further than X miles from its origin. In New York State, it's further than 50 miles from its origin. You have to have a certificate of origin. And we're here if I'm going to Midtown Manhattan, you put 50-mile radius out on that, there's really not a lot of trees.
Right.
There's one exception. That's kiln dried wood. And in the state of New York, you could probably count on your hands, maybe your hands and toes, the amount of kilns or the amount of companies that there are, and the companies that are New York State approved to sell kiln dried wood, and they have someone from the DEC go and check it out. So I started off getting dumps from, I called probably every company that sells kiln dried wood, and working with these guys who they'll dump the wood. First we were in a 8x8 storage container, and we're just moving out of that. First we were in the car, then the storage container, then we got a 40-foot shipping container. Now we're in a warehouse. So we get wood dumped in front of the warehouse. We box it up. We bought these like custom injection molded boxes. That makes it like easier to move. They're also like 1/60th of a full cord, so we can measure them out. And that's what we'll do. We'll dump it, we'll box it up, and then we also work with a wholesaler who has a larger operation that's producing probably 20, 30 cord a week, that'll produce like bundles for us, and we'll go and pick it up. And we go pick it up in a Transit 250 van. Now I'm like, I know I'm behind on all the equipment stuff and all of that, and I should have a 26-footer or 53-footer, but right now I don't. I just work with those wholesalers.
All right. So you are not producing firewood. You're buying off of a firewood producer and you're reselling it.
Exactly.
And these producers, they're not in the city then, right? They're outside of the city, and they will truck it into the city and dump it where you're at.
Yep. I did some research in the beginning. I don't think there is any zone at all in Brooklyn where a kiln would be allowed.
No kidding.
Yeah, maybe like somewhere in South Brooklyn, but there's all this zoning regulations that I don't know if it would be allowed. And even if it were, what do you need? Like maybe a quarter of an acre? You're probably gonna have to pay millions of dollars for that to purchase, or tens of thousands of dollars just to rent.
Right, because if you didn't have enough room to actually process the wood to go into the kiln, you'd end up having to truck the wood to the kiln and then truck it away. So you may as well just not even bother.
Yep, and then you're so far from the trees anyway, so
right, yeah,
it's hard to figure out.
Yeah, the last time I was in Lower Manhattan, I didn't see many trees.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny though.
I don't remember seeing any.
There are some trees, right? Like I was started working with one of our Brooklyn parks last year, Fort Greene Park, which is like half a mile from my house. My neighbor referred me, and they were buying our wood, like kiln dried, because they take down trees. Like they'll take down some birch or some oak or ash if it's infested or whatever's growing. They'll take it down, and then they try to burn it, but they're taking it down in these huge rounds. They can't burn it. So I was like, how do I work with these guys, get their trees and repurpose it and just like give it back to the community? But it was kind of a hard nut to solve. Didn't seem like I got in touch with the right persons, but that would be pretty cool to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So out here in Ohio, if I wanted to start a firewood business, I would just start a firewood business, and it's really no one's business, especially if I have acreage. I can't imagine that's the case in Brooklyn. I was looking at you on Google Maps, and it looks like your current place that you operate out of is kind of like under like overpass bridges, where there's a lot of flat pavement kind of a place.
Hmm.
So can you just open up shop and sell firewood, or is there in the city you got to have a lot of permits and inspections? Is there problems in dealing with wood untreated? Well, I guess this would be kiln dried, but what type of red tape is in your way to get started selling firewood in New York City?
Yeah, so there's a few different things from like an operational standpoint, and then from a financial standpoint. That's red tape. Uh, from an operational standpoint, the fire department for any storage of wood wants the wood to be stored in steel or fireproof storage. So I couldn't just build a hut or a shed out of wood and start storing the wood there. The fire department would not like that. So that's why like a shipping container that's all steel is totally fine, or a storage container, or now we're in a all steel warehouse. That's all good. Um, I'm not going and alerting myself to the fire department and asking them to come check me out. They've bothered a lot of my restaurant clients enough, to the point where they've had to buy special containers that are like fireproof safes to store the wood that are thousands of dollars. It's again one of those regulations, and then they get the safe and they're like, hey, it's super shallow, we can't fit your wood in here. So we had to get it specially cut to 12 inches so it can fit in there, so we can stack it. So we work with a lot of folks who have these safes, and now we have to cut the wood to a smaller length to get it stacked. Then on the financial side, um, like I have to charge sales tax, which varies by my client base. So my restaurant clients are paying full sales tax because they're not reselling, which is like 9%. Residential, they can pay what's known as like residential heating sales tax, which is the same for oil or propane, or any kind of residential heat, which is half of that, 4.5%.
Well, I got to tell you, Richard, I am just finding this fascinating, and I appreciate, like, anytime I hear stories about someone like you who looks at something like firewood and takes it to a level that it hasn't been thought of before. Like, we've talked about this on the podcast many times, where people just get in a way of thinking about firewood as one thing and one thing only. Like, if you mention firewood in New York or Brooklyn, people are like, oh no, that's not possible. No one's going to buy firewood there. So I really appreciate hearing all of this, and it's fascinating for me. But what's really fascinating for me is on your website, you have listed where someone can buy a single piece of firewood. Have you ever had people buy one piece of firewood? Or buy the
No,
piece?
no, but it comes down to the market that we're selling it here in New York City. That's the
This
reason
guy,
why I put that
this
on the
guy is
website.
a genius, Dan. This
I
guy is a
know, I
genius.
know.
I've never sold that particular product, but I have people ask all the time, how many pieces in a bundle, how many pieces in a face cord, how many pieces in a half face cord, and I don't call them those things. I don't use general firewood terms for the most part on my website. I will have pictures and give them names that are easier to digest, because with this market being affluent, and they're willing to pay a little bit more, and it costs us more to get this product here, right? It's got to be kiln dried, it's got to be trucked. You can't bring a huge trailer into small streets. All these things make it cost more. And because they're not really using it as like a primary or even a secondary source of heat, their level of knowledge is a little lower than your typical
Yes. Yep.
homeowner who has a wood stove or a couple fireplaces, or they're splitting it themselves, or that kind of thing. So we've had to change how we sell it versus, oh, this is 4x4x8, this is a full cord of firewood, because people don't understand that, and they ask
Correct.
questions like,
Yep.
how big, how many pieces are in there, and I give them the same answer, which is, it can be 500 to 1,000 or whatever it is that they're asking, and give them an answer to that, but it's based on the size. Like we could have a bundle with 7 pieces in it or a bundle with 15 pieces. We just make sure it's 3/4 of a cubic foot. So that's why I put that up there. So
Yeah,
people could, if they were very particular about, oh, I want this many pieces, they can go and buy as many pieces as they want.
that's what I kind of figured, and just hearing, knowing that, I'm sure you're probably not dealing in traditional amounts like cords. You probably are only, you're probably dealing in smaller amounts that you deliver.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah. So, Richard, we eventually want to get to. We're just fascinated by all this, and I want to hear. I want to hear about your delivery, and how you deliver. But I want to get back to your wood yard. I mean, I don't know if that's even what you refer to it as, but I'm going to call it a wood yard. But I want to remind everyone we're talking with Richard Heby. He is the owner operator of Woodbourne Boys Firewood Delivery Company, and they are in Brooklyn, New York, and they service uh, the the New York City area, and they are in and out of the bowels of that city every day. And we're just having a blast here with this discussion. But I want to get back to your wood yard, Richard. How much? And you're dealing with kiln dried, so the moment it shows up, you can sell it. It's going on. It's going out for
Hmm.
delivery. But what is your typical? How much are you carrying in quantity at your wood yard? And then I know you're servicing 30 restaurants, and they're all on their own consumption schedule. But
Yep.
tell us about the in and out here. How much are you buying? How much is getting trucked in? When these trucks come in, are they 53-foot semis? Are they smaller box trucks? Give us this whole process.
We got 2 suppliers right now. One that's doing our bundles, and that's mostly going out to our restaurants. And we'll do anywhere from like 400 to 700 bundles a week for restaurants. 150 bundles in a cord, so call it like 3 to 5 cords per week for
Uh huh.
restaurants. And in terms of the loose wood or the dumped wood, they're coming with like a dump truck as if they were, and they're coming from Long Island, as if they were making a delivery at someone's house in their driveway, and they just dump it in our driveway. It's a warehouse really, so they dump it in front of the loading dock,
Yeah.
and we lay a tarp down. We fill up 120 boxes for that full 2 cords, or 119 or 123, whatever it makes, and we throw them on pallets and use a pallet jack to bring them in, and try to hold at least 5 cords in the warehouse at a time. But
Uh
we
huh.
can go through, like, we could get a 2 full cord delivery, go through it the next day. We could go pick up 350 bundles and go through it the next day. So it's a little hard, especially in the high season, to hold on to inventory. So I'm looking at, yeah, like upgrading the equipment. It hasn't been a complete need right now because we're mostly doing wholesale to retail distribution. So that hasn't been like you said, if you were in Ohio, wanted to open up a firewood company, I guess just get a pickup truck or a dump truck and go for it, and a couple
Yeah.
chainsaws. We don't need that stuff. Like I have a splitter, I have a wrapping machine, I got a van, and a couple other contractors that have their own vans, and we make it work for now.
Yeah. So I'm real interested here. So the majority of the wood that you're getting is coming from Long Island, your suppliers?
I'd say it's like 50-50 Long Island and the Catskills.
Okay. And then these dump trucks, what are they? Are they like the type that you see in road construction, or like a landscaper, or somewhere in between? They hold maybe about a cord?
Landscape dump truck, I think it's like 10 foot long. It holds 2 cords at a time,
Okay.
just
And
about.
then your bundled firewood, you're
Hmm.
buying it already bundled. What is this? Is it in like an onion bag, or is it wrapped in stretch wrap?
Stretch wrap. Um, I started in the beginning doing my own bundles, but it's strange because you have residential customers who are willing to pay full retail for bundles, like $12 or whatever it is. And then you have restaurants who want a wholesale price. And so I was paying 35, 45, 50 cents for the onion bags. And I was like, then another 50 cents to put it in. All of that really adds up. They want to pay $6. They want to pay $6.75. So I just wanted to know exactly what I was paying. So I'm getting them to do all the bundles for me. And
Yeah.
they're packing it by hand, stuffed full in the Ford Transit 250. Maybe 2 cords plus a little bit at a time, and some weeks we go 3 weeks, three times a week. Sorry,
Oh,
rather,
Wow.
to pick up bundles.
And then you say you are also wrapping your own, or you have the ability to do that. What kind of a machine do you wrap with?
It's it's a machine from this company called Twister Industries. It's one of those twister machines.
Yeah. Know it
They
well.
I think Hudson makes one too. Um, I don't know if it is the best version of the Twister wrapper machine. I think I'd probably try another company on the next go around. Maybe you
Yeah.
know.
Well, hit me up after the podcast, and I'll
All
put
right.
you on to. I will put you on to Go Fast Manufacturing.
Okay, cool. Cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So I got to ask this again. My mind is racing, but tell us about one of your strangest or most difficult deliveries, like climbing 40 flights of stairs or something. Is it like that, or is it just like normal drive up to a restaurant, or residential, ring the doorbell, here you go?
All of them are kind of strange. I mean, some of them are fairly straightforward, where the most straightforward is going to be open my gate. Maybe they'll give you a code. There's under the staircase, there's a little like witches cupboard in there, storage area, stack it in there. That would be the
Yeah.
easiest, which is certainly not easier than pull up a dump truck, dump it, leave.
Yep.
We have had multiple 6-story walk-ups, and then they were like, and surprise, it's going to the roof as well. That's brutal. And these things are like 60, 70 pounds, so it doesn't seem like it's a lot. But when you're going upstairs and the guy in the back's holding all the weight, it is really,
Yeah.
really brutal.
Whew.
And then some of the restaurants have very strange requirements for what they want. You can imagine these are tiny little restaurants, so they'll tell you, we're going to open up the hatch to the basement. You feel like a ninja turtle, and you throw it down the stairs, and then you go down, you climb over a pot, almost a face cord of firewood with a dolly, and then you dolly it to the back. That would be a fairly difficult one on the restaurant side.
Wow. What about residential and dealing with the super affluent? What are they like to deal with? Are they easy to deal with, or are they finicky?
Sometimes. It's funny because I'm like thinking of like certain clients, but I find that if I err on the side of just being polite and having a good phone manner and say yes to everything, customer is always right, that usually the customer is happy. And I try to instill the same thing in my workers and my drivers and my delivery guys, that just anything they want, you can do for them. But we don't really come across too many problems because the wood is kiln dried like well past that, well lower than a 20% moisture, so the
Yeah.
product's good. People don't usually have issues with it.
Hmm. What kind of vehicles do you deliver with?
Just vans right now. I'll
You
take
mean like
my
transit vans or
we
Econoline
got
vans, or what do you want?
we got a transit, with like a high roof, and then we have, um I got 2 contractors that drive like Econolines.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
and so when I think of Manhattan, I think of horn honking and red lights. So where do you park when you make a delivery? Are you sitting out on the road? Are you just like a regular delivery vehicle? You have people cussing you because you got the road blocked up, or how's this go?
Yeah. So to have a commercial vehicle in New York, firstly, you got to have your phone number, address, name on it on the side of it, or business. So I've had people call me, and I'll pick up the phone, Woodbourne Boys Firewood, how may I assist you? And they're like, your car's blocking the way. Move your car out of the way. I'm calling the cops. And I'm like, I'm in Vermont, or I'm like up in the Catskills doing something else, and so I got to call the driver and let him know. But we got to just find parking where we can find it. Luckily, some of the places there's truck loading zones, and we can park there. And as long as we're unloading, that's fine. It's really not the case most of the time, where we just have to kind of risk it, and we bake in tickets as a cost of doing business.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain delivery hours? So like you're not heading out, Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock to deliver 40 miles away. That will take you 5 hours to get there.
Yeah, so like our delivery zone is really like max out at like 13 miles from where
Okay.
the warehouse is.
Do
13
you,
miles is like 2.5 hours. It just is like in traffic. It's crazy.
I
But
love Ohio.
yeah, 13 miles, 13 minutes, right?
yeah.
Yeah, not the case. Like we could go 4 miles to Manhattan. It can be an hour, and that's
Oh,
like eh, in the morning. Um, but I since we have restaurants, they're on predictable schedules. We've started to couple them. So like Upper East Side Manhattan, that's Tuesday morning. Midtown Manhattan, that's Thursday. Williamsburg, Greenpoint, we do Tuesday and Friday. And so we've started to work around knowing when the restaurants need the deliveries and trying to schedule the residences in with those times. Now, I have like offerings for next day or urgent or same day rush delivery. If they want to pay another 50 or $100 to get it on the day that they want, sure, they can do that. But, and it's not just because it's a money grab. It's like getting that route optimized can save me 2, 3, 4 hours, if I know
right.
I'm making multiple deliveries in one area. And it's not like, I pay the drivers good money. So that really is just paying for their time to go out of their way.
Mhm. How many employees do you have, Richard?
Right now, I got two W-2 employees who are like more full time. Um, so I have a driver and a helper, and then I have two like seasonal contractors who are driving additionally, like when we can't fit everything in one
Yeah.
truck. And then I have two other helpers who are contractors as well, who help stack and load and
All right.
everything. Yeah.
And then what is the competition like in New York City? Are there a lot of firewood delivery services? Or is there a lot of room for more?
I don't know if how much room there is, because the market, while the economy is big, with 100 restaurants, and they're getting maybe a couple $100 in order every week, you got to figure the cost of inventory relative to the gross revenue is kind of low on the restaurant side. Like, I don't know, maybe there is room for more, but I think we're the only one in Brooklyn, or at least where we are in Brooklyn. There might be one other guy. I think there's a guy in the Bronx, and then there are a few companies that are either in the Catskills, New Jersey, or Long Island that will come in
Yeah.
and do larger deliveries. Um, but I have a guy who's kind of mentoring me who had like 75 out of the 100 restaurants pre-COVID, and he stopped doing Manhattan altogether. And that is the case. I've heard that a lot. Like, there used to be people who did Manhattan, who did Brooklyn, and they're like, nope, don't don't want to, not with the tickets, not with the, I don't want my I don't want to get into a fender bender. I don't want to pay they just like up the tolls, can be like $40 in and out of Manhattan. People don't want to deal with that. And I kind of, outside of the good customer service and customer retention thing, my whole thing was like, I'm going to do myself what no one else is willing to do. And
Yeah.
so if that means climb stairs, if that means stack it, if that means be a nice and polite person, I'm going to do all that until it gets unbearable. So yeah, I think a lot of people, because they have small apartments, because they don't have a lot of storage, they'll just go to the hardware store, buy a couple bundles, and do what I did. And so I just came in there to be like, let's make it easier. It was a pain in the butt for me, and so I imagine it is for other people too.
All right, so another hot topic on my mind here is, I know New York and Manhattan, Brooklyn, it's a big city, and there's a lot of names out there. So have you ever delivered to like any famous people or anyone famous from New York?
So I had a guy call me once, older gentleman. I think he was on a TV show back in the day, but he told me his name because I collect all the information. What's your name, phone number, address, all that stuff. He's like, my name's so-and-so. Look me up on Google. I didn't recognize the name, but it appears he was on some show like Brothers and Sisters back in the day.
Yeah.
Delivered to some folks who I guess I know from like their owners of companies that I know and things like that. But we had actually one very interesting experience, and it's on my Instagram. This woman who's like Instagram famous, maybe like 200,000, 150,000 followers. She's 98 years old. Her name is Dorothy. She has this like cult following. She's this amazing person. She's so famous, not famous. I kept calling her and checking in on her because I like to do that, but also because I just like talking to her. And so she called me up for firewood, and we delivered there a couple times. I was like, how about I'll give it to you for free. Just post me on your Instagram. And she was like, oh, sure. She's not like famous, but she's like Instagram famous, and she's pretty cool.
All right.
Nice.
That's good. Well, Richard, do me a favor, though. If you ever get an order from a person known as Jody Foster, you can 1099 me. I'll be your delivery guy. Okay.
I got you.
So where can we find you online if people want to take a look and check you out?
Yeah, you can check out our website, which is woodbourneboys.com, WOODBOURNE boys.com, or at Woodbourne Boys on Instagram. One thing that I guess is kind of interesting is that I don't know that much about firewood relative to you guys. I didn't grow up cutting my own firewood. I'd never operated a kiln before. I know how to market. I know how to sell. I know how to do customer service, all of that. So yeah, if you know a lot about firewood, you live in New York City, hit me up. We can chat.
Yeah, it's like it didn't necessarily have to be firewood for you. It could have been donuts or hot dogs, or it could have been bathroom cleaners,
Yeah.
Well, and Richard, I don't know who you talked to before this, but we don't actually know that much about firewood either.
Everyone's sort of just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah. All you got to do is start a podcast and people think you're an expert, right?
Yeah. Or from what I hear from a lot of my followers, I don't know very much.
Yeah.
I feel like it's always the commenters know the most.
Yes.
They always know so much.
Uh-huh.
It's true. But yeah, you learn while you do it. Like you try it out, you learn what people like and don't like, and go from there.
All right. All right. Well, Richard, we want to thank you for sitting with us and giving us a window into your day, a firewood delivery service in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and New York City. Very interesting.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Dan.
Well, before you go, however, we do have one thing.
However,
A tradition here on the podcast. where we do what we call Woodhound the guest. So we're going to
Okay.
throw at you a series of questions, and you need to answer these just one word, just right off the top of your head, as quick as you can answer them. We'll have a clock going, so you are on the clock.
All right.
And if you are ready, I will give you the first question.
These are short answers, Richard, and if you don't answer them, though, in the allotted time, you will suffer a significant Woodhound penalty.
A Manhattan fine, I imagine.
So, Joe, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Dan, why don't you start with the first question and start the clock?
All right, here we go. What car did you take your driver's test in?
An Acura, I think.
Who is this guy? Driving an Acura. Okay.
This is my grandma's.
All right. I don't know how this is going to go, Dan. Okay, Richard, what is your favorite chainsaw?
I think I have a steel. I don't know which size it is at home. Yeah.
What is your favorite fast food restaurant?
Wendy's.
Where is your dream vacation?
Like Big Sky, Montana.
Do you believe in UFOs?
Yeah.
What is your favorite rock band?
Oh, is Eric Clapton a rock band?
Yeah.
All right.
What is your favorite firewood species?
Ash.
Good answer. Would you rather go to a truck pull or a symphony orchestra?
I don't know what a truck pull is, so a symphony orchestra.
Who is your favorite historical figure?
Johnny Appleseed.
And what is your favorite sports team?
New York Knicks.
All right. You made it through.
Oh, I didn't know we had a live audience.
All right. Well, Richard, thank you so much. And I mean, when you think about it, we were asking a lot of you. You didn't know who we were. You'd never heard of us. You took my call. You took me serious, and you agreed to sit down here with us and let us pepper you with 1,001 questions about Woodbourne Boys Firewood Delivery Service, Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, he might be changing that policy about always answering his phone after this.
I'm always trying to say yes to everyone. I don't have the benefit of being 10 years in business, so just try to say yes to everyone. And this has been true pleasure. You guys are great, so really
thank you. Yeah, I'm still, my wheels are going to be turning for days after just thinking about this, and so thank you very much, Richard. Greatly appreciate you being here. I
see there might be a day where we will invite him back, don't you think, Dan? And we'll probably have more questions we need for him.
I can see that happening.
All right. So, Dan, maybe we better strike up the band and let's get out of here. What do you say?
Sounds good. Thanks again, Richard. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the #1 firewood podcast in the world, the Woodhounds, right here on your favorite podcasting platform.
That's right. And we want to tell everyone out there to stay
safe
and be
cool.
And Richard, have
a great day.